called 30 Days. And I just want to remind you that starting in July and August and the first week in September, we'll have 10 sermons on the Psalms. We do this every summer. We've already done, since I came, we've already done 80 Psalms. So if you have a Psalm that you would like Vaughn or I to preach on, if you would let us know. If we've not preached on it already, we'd be happy to add it to our list of Psalms in July and August. You have an outline in your bulletin, and I want to just jump right in with this wonderful passage from Psalm 39:4. Lord, remind me how brief my time on earth will be. Remind me that my days are numbered. How fleeting my life is. The Bible teaches us to number our days, because days turn into weeks, and weeks turn into months, and months turn into years, and before you know it, your entire life has slipped away. So I want you to consider this number, 11,223. Anybody have any idea what that number is? So if you invested 43 years of your life pursuing a career, you have invested 11,223 days of your life to your career. Some of you young people are still in the 11,000 still to go. But how about this number, 28,835 days? That's the average life expectancy today. By the way, before you flip out your phone and get your calculator and try to figure it out, it comes out to 79 years. Some of you in the room have many days yet to come. Others of you are working on extra credit. Now, for our purposes today, the number I want us to focus on is 30. 30 days. Imagine getting a phone call from a doctor about a test result that you just took, where he gives you these 6 words that change everything. You have 30 days to live. What would instantly matter? Would you still chase the same things you're chasing today? Would you still spend your evenings scrolling on your phone with the people that you love who are in the very next room rather than go sitting next to them? Would you keep nursing that grudge or postponing that apology? Would professional achievements still be the scoreboard that matters? Would you still delay that step of faith or spiritual decision to fully follow Jesus? Strange thing is, we all know that our time is limited. No one gets out of this life alive. Woody Allen famously said, "It's not that I'm afraid to die, I just don't want to be there when it happens." Which actually means he's afraid to die. We all know that time is limited. But most of us live as if the clock was just theoretical, adjustable, abstract. But the cross and an empty tomb shatter that illusion. Jesus did not have to guess when he knew his time was short. He knew. John 13:1 says, it was just before the Passover festival. Notice the next phrase. Jesus knew that the hour had come for him to leave this world and go to heaven. Go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, He loved them to the end. So here is the critical question. I think you have it in your bulletin. If I knew I only had 30 days to live, would my life look any different? If I knew I had 30 days to live, would my life look any different? Now, I don't ask that question to scare you, but to prepare you. Any walk through a cemetery reminds us that death is the single most predictable event to prepare for in our life. So for the next 30 days, we are going to talk about living with the end in mind and how that changes our lives and our relationships, and I think dramatically in good ways. But before we can talk about our 30 days, we need to talk about His. There are 3 takeaways, and I pray that they will speak to your lives and soul today as we look at how Jesus faced those days. Takeaway number 1. Jesus faced the clock without flinching. Jesus faced the clock without flinching. Listen to these words from John 12:27. Now my soul is troubled, and what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour. No, it was for this very reason I came to this hour. Did you notice that Jesus didn't deny the moment? He doesn't deny the cross and the death sentence that awaits him. He doesn't pretend that it's going to be easy either. There's no panic. There's no bargaining for more time. He clearly feels the weight of what is ahead of him, but he clearly refuses to run from his purpose. Here's another glimpse into how Jesus faced it. Luke 9:51. As the time drew near for him to ascend to heaven, Jesus resolutely set out for Jerusalem. Your translation may say, turned his face towards Jerusalem. There were no distractions, no hesitation. He locked in on the mission. That's different from how most of us respond when we sense the clock is ticking. You know, we get so easily distracted. I've told this story before. I think I've told it here. My wife says you tell it everywhere you go, but that's okay. So one day my family and I were eating at Applebee's. And this is pre-COVID, so they had these big, like an iPad that you had to scan your card to pay. And I was having a hard time doing that. And I said to the waitress, I said, would you help me? She said, oh, I'd be happy to. So she scans it, and she finishes it, and here she says, here, Mr. Bates, here's your card. It's all done. I said, can I have a towel? She said, what do you need a towel for? I said, well, while you were scanning it with your left hand, you were pouring iced tea down my pant leg with your right hand. And down at my foot was a great big puddle of iced tea. And she jumped back and she screamed. She said, you're so calm. I said, young lady, it just cracks me up. She said, I am so embarrassed. I said, don't be. I said, here's the deal. I said, I will probably tell that story 100 times, but I will never tell them your name. And I still remember her name. I heard about a guy that had a serious heart problem, and he goes to his cardiologist. A few days later, the doctor drives by and sees this guy jogging down the road with a beautiful young lady running next to him. The doctor slams on his brakes and says, "What are you doing?" The guy says, "You told me to get a bad, hot mama and be careful." "No," the doctor said, "I told you you have a heart murmur and be careful." The clock is ticking. Some of us are running hard, but are we running in the right direction? And here's why this is so relevant. Some of us, when we hear that the clock is ticking, we panic, we freeze, or we run around like crazy people trying to cram everything in before the buzzer sounds. Jesus did neither. He set his face towards Jerusalem. He resolutely moved forward with purpose. How could he do that? He could do that because he was anchored in God. Hebrews 6:19 says, "We have this hope as an anchor for the soul, firm and secure. It enters the inner sanctuary before the curtain, behind the curtain." So if you're keeping all your outline in order, letter A is Jesus is the anchor for your soul. Jesus is the anchor for your soul. That is saying, no matter how chaotic our world gets, no matter who betrays you, no matter what hurts you have, no matter who leaves you, no matter the price of gasoline, no matter which political party is in power, no matter what the war in the Middle East is doing, there's one thing you can count on in the deepest night of your soul. If you are in a right relationship with God through faith in Jesus Christ, this anchor is for your soul. So can I ask you, do you have an anchor like that? An anchor so secure that even with 30 days to live, you would face the clock without flinching. Because if you live with this quiet confidence, you walk differently through life. Your disappointments, they don't shipwreck you. It completely redefines how you face death. When that inevitably comes for all of us, and it will. Do I need to remind you that all other anchors in your life do not have holding power? Money makes a lousy anchor. One recession, one bad investment, and you realize money is a lousy anchor. Your career, which many of us love, is a lousy anchor. But we have a God who sent his Son, and he is our anchor. When the wall in front of you is too high to get over or too wide to see around, God says, "I'm your firm and secure, and I will be by your side. I will be that anchor." When you feel like you can't go another step, God says, "I'm with you, and I'm going to be your anchor every step of the storm." When you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, God says, "Take my hand and squeeze tight." You can face the clock without flinching because we have this hope, whose name is Jesus. An anchor for your soul. Firm and secure. Now, takeaway number 2. Jesus embraced the cross with joy. Jesus embraced the cross with joy. As you know, Easter is a 3-day event. You have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You have trouble, silence, deliverance. You have beginning, middle, and end. You have death, burial, and resurrection. But there's no Resurrection Sunday without a Good Friday. I don't know if you ever thought about that. Crucifixion was horrible. It was a barbaric form of capital punishment. It was slow. It was humiliating. People died from exhaustion and suffocation and exposure. It was so awful, the words to describe it just don't come to our lips. Some people said that they took his life. I want to tell you, the Romans didn't take his life. He gave it. He gave it. As a Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world, he gave it. I want you to look at, I know your bulletin, and this is on me, I put Hebrews 2:2, it should be 12:2. Listen to these words. Hebrews 12:2, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith, for the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. So letter A, what did Jesus find joy in? What did he find joy in? You and me, we are that joy. What joy could there possibly be? Having people give false accusations, the beatings that he took, the thorns on his head, the nails in his hands, the spear in his side. Where is the joy? I just want to remind you, that joy is you and me. The joy that the thought that his death saved you and me, forgave you and me, healed our wounds. One day he is going to bring you into heaven without suffering. You were the joy set before him. So there's a principle, it's letter B. True value is determined by what someone is willing to pay for something. True value is determined by what someone is willing to pay for something. Ultimately, the value of your home is not what the appraiser says it is. It is determined by what someone is willing to pay for it. Here is your value. The value God places on you. No matter what mistakes you have made, listen to these words from 1 Corinthians 6:20. For God bought you with a high price. So you must honor God with your body. It's a costly kind of love. Sometimes we look at some of the things we've done, the darkness in our hearts, the sins that we've committed, the people we have hurt, and we believe that we are not even garage sale material. And Jesus looks at you and me and he says, no, I was pierced for your transgression. I was crushed for your iniquities, and by my wounds you can be healed. When Jesus embraced the cross, you and I were the joy on his mind. Now, I don't know where you are in your spiritual journey. Some of you may be brand new to going to church and hearing about Jesus. Others of us have been in the church for a long time. But I do know one thing. If your picture of God is anything less than a God who loves you unconditionally, so much that he gave his only son for you, you have the wrong picture of God. His love is for frat boys and girls gone wild. His love is for those with special needs and victims of rape and abuse. His love is for gangbangers and for people who are counting their days clean and sober. His love is for firefighters and farmers and dishwashers and truck drivers and stockbrokers and single moms and rednecks. His love is for people with secret lies and stagnant faith. His love is for politicians. Yes, he even loves the politicians. And factory workers, tattoo parlor owners, doctors and foster kids, and people with addictions. His love is for families that are falling apart and families that are pretending that they have it all together. His love is for everyone. His love is for you. You are the joy set before him. Takeaway number 3. Jesus rose to open the door to new life. Jesus rose to open the door to new life. He didn't flinch on Friday because he could see Sunday. And on that Easter Sunday morning, the most death-defying, grave-defeating, fear-destroying, hope-igniting event in the history of the world took place. The women came to the tomb expecting to find a dead body. Instead, they are greeted with an angel who announces to them, Matthew 28, 5 and 6. The angel said to the woman, "Do not be afraid, for I know that you are looking for Jesus who was crucified. He is not here. He is risen, just as he said. Come and see the place where he lay." So if you have ever been to Jerusalem, if you've ever been to the Garden Tomb in Jerusalem, you know what's there? Nothing. It's empty. The resurrection of Jesus is what differentiates Christianity from all the other religions. Go to the tomb of Buddha or Mohammed or Confucius, and you will find it is occupied. Go to the Garden Tomb in Jerusalem, and it is empty. Because he actually was resurrected from the dead. Do I believe it? Absolutely. Only the resurrection explains why Jesus and this movement we called Christianity didn't die when he did. Only the resurrection explains why his closest followers and even his own brothers gave their lives proclaiming that Jesus is alive. Only the resurrection explains why the cross, an instrument of death in that day, has come to represent healing and hope and new life. That's why we wear it around our necks. Only the resurrection explains why 2,000 years later the Church of Jesus Christ is still growing and millions of people are gathering in churches and cathedrals and in underground caves today to proclaim that death did not win. It didn't get the final word, and Jesus Christ is risen. But here is the uncomfortable question I must ask. If we actually believe that, if we live like people whose days are numbered and brief, here's the question. It's letter A. So what would change? What would change? It might surprise you, but I actually love funerals because they always remind us of the brevity of life. They remind me every time that I must live in a sense of urgency. I've sat with many people over the years that were on their deathbed. And one of the hardest things to watch is someone in their final days or hours with regret in their lives. Because there are things left undone in their lives, or wrongs they wish they could make right. I can tell you definitely Not once has someone on their deathbed shown me their trophies, bragged about their professional accomplishments, or shown me their bank account, not once. Or boasted about how many social media followers they have. But I've seen a lot of people say sorry to a loved one and extend forgiveness that they'd held on to for way too long. I've seen people give their lives to Jesus in their final days and hours, just right here, just a couple years ago. Guy gave his life to Christ on Monday, was baptized on Thursday, and died the following Monday. I can tell you one constant thing. They would give anything to do what they did in their life, at the end of their life, sooner. So let me ask you again. If tomorrow you stood before Jesus, what would you wish that you had done today? Let me say it again. If tomorrow you stood before Jesus, what would you wish you had done today? I've been praying for a while now about who needs to hear this message. And here's what I conclude. I'm confident that there is a dad, and I appreciate Adam's children's story this morning. I think we'll put him on a regular rotation for the children's story. I think there's a dad here today who needs to tell his kids that he loves them. And that he's proud of them. And you say, oh, they know I love them. But I'm telling you, they need to hear it from you. There's a single mom here whose life is consumed with finding the one. But if you're going to meet Jesus tomorrow, you already have enough in him today. And my greatest advice to you is to run as fast as you can after Jesus and see who else is keeping up with you. Maybe those are the people you need to devote your time to. Maybe you know a teenager that's cutting themselves. You know they're dying inside. And if you knew that they were meeting Jesus tomorrow, you would go speak to them today. There's a person here that is and you have a trouble with forgiveness. And you punish the offender daily, thinking that it will relieve your pain. It won't. If you're going to be meeting Jesus tomorrow, wouldn't you forgive them today? Give yourself the gift of no longer drinking the poison of self-destruction and unforgiveness. There's a business person today, and you keep building your business and bank account bigger, but if you were going to meet Jesus tomorrow, I guarantee you, you would do anything you could to invest more in God and his church. Because you can't take your bank account with you. All you can take is the lives of the people that you impacted because you invested in the kingdom of God and his church. There's a married couple here today, and you are at each other's throats over the most stupid stuff. If you were to meet Jesus tomorrow, would you reconcile today? I don't know exactly what God is speaking to you today, what He's saying. But I do know we must live with urgency, because we don't know when we have 30 days to live. You know, at the start of the message, I asked you to remember that phone call that you had from a doctor that said you have 30 days to live. Here's the truth. Jesus got that call, not from a doctor, but from his Father. He knew the hour had come. He knew the suffering that was ahead. He knew the cost, and he did not flinch. He was anchored, and he endured the cross with joy because of you and me. He stepped out of the grave with power, which means he chose you and me. He chose the cross. He chose resurrection. And he chose the door to open for each of us to new life. So here's what I'm asking. It's my conclusion. Just do today what you would do if you were going to meet Jesus tomorrow. Just do today what you would do if you were going to meet Jesus tomorrow. Perhaps there is nothing in our worship service that is more distinctive in relevance to the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ than that of the bread and cup communion. We're going to sing an old hymn of the church,